legends, I'm back at it again. And what am I doing? I'm doing the rear knuckles, the Gktech rear knuckles in the S15. So the S15's got the 2J. You might have followed some of the other videos before. I'm all about that grip, man. I just want them wheels to hook me to do that 10 seconds. I want my times really well. I want this to be for an H pattern. I want it to be a pretty competitive roll racing car at the roll racing events. So I'm installing these rear knuckles. Hopefully they do what they say. Anti-squat gets improved, everything gets improved. So what they do is change the geometry and everything of all the pickup points. So I'm banking on that Gktech. Come on, baby. In this video, I'm not going to show you me disconnecting everything, but what I have done is I've dropped the whole subframe, complete subframe. I've left the coilovers in there, whole subframe, rolled it out, pulled everything off, all the rear knuckles and everything like that, up onto the bench. I build up the Gktech, so I show that in a time lapse, build it all up, reinstall it back onto the subframe back up, and then finish off with like a wheel alignment string line set up to do all my toe and everything, and I can sort out my camber. And then on the next video I'll do the back-to-back testing, try and get the times down and see what improvements it actually does give me. So should be pretty good. It might give some insight for some people if they're looking at purchasing these. So fingers crossed, baby. Okay, she's coming up pretty good. These rear knuckles go in pretty easy, but there is one issue here, is with this OEM washer they want you to put on this top of the spacer and then the nut. Spacer is to push the nut further away so it doesn't foul with this one here. But we are fouling pretty much with the washer there, so I'm going to have to trim that washer up. And I have slightly done it on this one, but I'm just going to do it for like potentially half of the washer, just so when you do tighten it up it gives a bit of clearance. So because these guys here will pivot slightly when the suspension goes up and down, so you, like I would have thought you'd want a bit of clearance there. Other than that, everything's going on really nicely. About to put the subframe in. Okay, she's all ready to go back in. I've got my clearance there, not a hell of a lot, but it's definitely clearance. And over here, definitely clearance. They're nice and straight, everything's tight, except for my toe arms. But I am gonna have to adjust my camber, my toe arms anyway. And that's the toe brace. So that helps to strengthen up the subframe a little bit as well, which is awesome. In the future, I will get the Gktech welding plates and do the whole subframe and pull it all out and probably powder coat the whole thing. But she's been out many times. I'll say she's going to come out many more times. So with this process, if you didn't know, you can just pull the whole subframe out with all the brakes on it and everything except for the calipers. Because obviously they're connected to the brake lines, so you just cable tie the calipers up out of the way. See, the suspension still was sitting in there, just the bottom mount was disconnected, and the whole subframe drops down, so that's pretty cool. Then all that's left is a breather on the like once it's up, there will be a breather that you just plug in right there, and then you connect the handbrake lines and the drive shaft. And then you don't unnecessary to do this, but I took the brake rotors off. You just put the brake rotors back on, calipers back on, bolt up the mount for the bottom mount for the suspension. And what you'll notice here too is I've got the Pro Series IDS coilover drag suspension. So with this setup, it mounts, instead of going straight onto the standard mount, which would be underneath there, it sets it further out. So this isn't part of the Gktech kit, but this is part of my Pro Series drag coilovers, so don't get confused on that. And just one more thing that I did do as well is I originally had the Gktech poly mounts in, but I had, see there's a 10mm lip there, and then there's like a 3mm lip there or something. I had them the other way around, because you can mount them either way. So the other way around with the bigger mount on the top is the factory position. I've switched these around now, and it raises the whole subframe up into the car 10mm, because I've taken 10mm out. So that's the mods that I've done on this, I guess this version of pulling the subframe out. I've raised the subframe up 10mm, and I've put the Gktech rear knuckles on to change all of the mounts. They all sit further down to try and get the geometry sort of spot on for grip. So hopefully this all helps. Okay, she's all buttoned up together. I think these sit slightly further down than factory. So I think the caliper sits up about here on factory. It's no drama at all. Just something to note, I guess. The 10mm raise in the subframe doesn't collide with the chassis at all, which is cool. So that's quite nice. I was worried about that. Exhaust back on, sensor back on, everything, all the drive shafts, the whole lot. So I've got to put the wheels on and set up a wheel alignment, pretty much, because the toe is going to be way out. Not sure if the camber is going to be where it originally was, but toe is definitely out. Okay, as you can see here, I've just set up like just a little bit of a wheel alignment sort of setup. This is really just going to be testing my, being able to adjust my toe. So, and I'm only focusing on the rear because the fronts are all set up anyway. I don't really touch them, but I'm always modifying the rear subframe. So it's really good to sort of use a technique so I don't have to go to the wheel alignment shop every single time. So to adjust the toe, I'm sure most of you have already sort of seen this, but this is just a setup where I've got bar on the back, bar on the front, and I've just got a string line on one side, string line on the other. I've got a cut in grooves on my steel bar. You can use any type of bar, but the key here is to have that measurement between the two, sitting about 50mm off of the front and the rears. And that measurement there is exactly the same on the front bar. You put your string lines on, you just measure from the center to the string line on both sides, front and rear, and get it all square. Once it's all square, it's nice and easy to do the front toe. All you're doing is measuring from the rim to the string line, and from the front of the rim to the string line, and that'll tell you the difference of your angle of your toe. Pretty simple really, isn't it? And then how do I adjust my camber? It's a bit of a little makeshift setup, but I do it just like that. I've put a piece of conduit on there so that sits on the actual rim, because my tires bulge out and they would obviously hit the spirit level. So it's from the top of the rim to the bottom of the rim, and I won't put it on because I've got my string line on, but I just set it on there and I can see if I've got, that would be positive camber, and that would be negative camber. So it doesn't need to be too spot on for me because I'm always adjusting it. It's just something to sort of reference to. So happy days on that. Okay, so that came up pretty good. I got to admit, I was a little bit worried that things were just going to start clashing and it was just going to be a little bit of a nightmare. But as you can see in some of those videos, well, some of those clips, things come close, like in the way of installing all your arms and everything like that, but they don't collide or clash. So they've done actually a really good job on that. And I would say, because I've got hard race arms, if you had Gktech arms throughout, you'll probably have a bit more clearance on everything else as well. So, but the only real issue that I did have was that larger washer at the top there, but that's no drama at all. Those might have been different washers, they might have not been the factory ones or something like that, who really knows. But other than that, came up really well. What you will find is all the settings that you had originally are way off, because your connection points for all your arms now, especially on the knuckle side of things, are forward, back, down, up, they're just in different spots, you know what I mean? So yeah, you really have to readjust all of your arms, your camber arms, your toe, and your traction. They're all way off. So I've got mine pretty good. It takes a little bit to set up yourself. When you're doing it at home, it'll be way easier if you were at like a garage or something like that, nice and jacked up. But with my wheel alignment set up, my string line, all that does is that enables me to set my toe, which is really nice. And then I just use that spirit level setup that I use all the time, just to test my camber effect and stuff like that. So pretty happy with the results so far. I've taken it for a couple of test drives. Can't really tell if it's given me any more grip or anything until I start launching it and stuff like that, but nothing fell off, everything's happy days. So pretty excited to dial in the settings and start testing this bad boy out. So wait for the next video and I should have some good results. Boom, hope you like.